Morning you guys, it's Karen and I wanted to do this video because I hope that it will help some people that may have been in my position. I did that video, you may remember, on separation anxiety with dogs because that's an issue that I went through when we first got Watson, but thankfully one that we don't have anymore. Although funny enough, husband and I were saying last night, God, it's been ages since we've left him. Like, I need to make an effort to leave him, even if it's just a pop to Asda later this week so that he doesn't get unused to it, because he was following me around a bit yesterday. Anyway, that's one that we've got over. I wouldn't say that we're over the high energy and that I have the magic solution, because I don't. I still do struggle with his energy levels. I've noticed him calming down a little bit in the last few weeks, to be honest. But he's had some troubles, some health troubles, just for a change. And it could be because of that. It might not be the energy levels. But what I do have is a kind of bag of tricks that I dip into whenever his energy has gone wild. In that separation video, I have had 2 emails that have said that it's really helped the people, and to be honest, it's not I don't care about people, but it's the dogs that I'm interested in, and I really want to make a difference to dogs in any small indirect way. And if there are dogs that are suffering with separation anxiety and my video has helped these people to help the dogs, then I'm delighted. I'm just beyond happy. Even when I received the first email, I was like, yeah, it was totally worth doing the video, because I did get somebody leaving negativity on it, and I was just like, no, it was totally worth doing it because it's helped somebody. They've used some of the techniques that I said had worked for me, and their dog is no longer anxious. Perfect, absolutely perfect. So same with this. I hope that even if I help one person that has a high energy dog, that will be worth me doing the video. But I first want to say there are 2 different schools of thought on high energy dogs, because there is the one school of thought whereby, and actually sometimes my husband says this, and I think he's somewhere in the middle, but he'll say, when Watson is pawing at me, so if he was here, he's at daycare today, but if he was here and he was bored, he would come and like scratch my arm and he'll knock things off side. So he's actually looking for something to play with or eat, I think. So what my husband and a lot of people will say is that they are just looking for attention. They are like children, etc. What the other side will say, and what a trainer has told me, and what I believe, is that if they are bothering you that much, if they are scratching at your arm, etc., you haven't tired them out enough, and that if you have tired them out, if you have stimulated them physically and mentally, then they will be tired and they will be relaxed. When I say I believe that point of view, again, like Kev, I'm somewhere in the middle. I feel like, for example, if I take Watson for a long enough walk, he's had food, he's had water, and I've done some training with him, and he still then won't sleep, I feel like he's like an overactive child, and at that point I need to ignore him and I need to make him rest, because he does need rest. But if I haven't done anything with him, or like when he goes for his walk, it comes back, and even if he sleeps for a maximum of 2 hours, say, which is the maximum of 2 hours, he then has a little wander around, wakes up, has a drink of water, and he then comes and starts pawing at me, I believe then that he needs entertainment. And so that's where I'm at, but you may fall on either side. You may believe they're just looking for attention. You may believe that they need to be tired out. So that's up to you to make your opinion as you choose, of course. But what I'm giving you solutions to is when they are bouncing around, being crazy, and you need to tire them out. Well, I have got my little list on the wall in here, and actually on the wall in the living room. And I needed to do that because I needed to be able to, when he was going crazy, have a list to look at where I could go, what can I do? And I didn't want to do the same thing every day. It's got a list of all the things I train him on, etc. But it was just ideas of what to do with him. So I've just jotted it down on a little piece of paper to tell you about, because there are some things that you can prepare in advance and give him if you just need 15 minutes at the computer to do something, or there's nothing that is like very long lasting here that would occupy him for an hour or something, I suppose, depending on the intelligence of a dog, of the particular dog you're talking about. But these are things that you can pre-prepare, give to them, and that they will leave you alone for a moment, if you see what I mean. The first thing and the biggest thing that I've used and that I've found so useful and doesn't cost a penny is to keep every single box and use it for treats. So for example, this tissue box, when I have used the last tissue in here, I will keep this box. I've got, I suppose I do buy, now what's it called? It's not sellotape, but it's the stuff that you use on skirting boards when you're painting, because it then doesn't get stuck to their fur. It's very easy to rip. I would put a couple of treats in here. If you don't want to give them treats, you can use their kibble. But he wouldn't attempt to get into a box for his kibble because he's not that fussed for his kibble. So what instead we do is we reduce the amount of kibble we give him each day and then make that up with treats. So I use cat sticks. Let me get them. It was actually a dog behaviourist that came to the house that showed me to use these because they are high meat content. These ones I from memory yet, no added sugar, no artificial colours or flavours, and they are very, very soft. So you can break one of these sticks up into lots and lots of pieces. They're inexpensive. I think it's 80p for a pack of 6. So I just rip, I normally use about 3. I'd open this, put it into little pieces, put a couple of pieces in here and then put some of that, it's not Scotch tape, you know, that type of tape that I was talking about on top. And then I sometimes do pre-prepare them. What I'll do is when he comes back from his walk, if I know I've got a busy afternoon and he might only sleep for an hour, for example, I'll prepare some of these boxes, and it could be egg boxes, the end of kitchen roll. You don't even need tape for that. You just put the treats in the middle of the kitchen roll and then bend the ends of it over, and that takes them a while to figure that out. Bearing in mind that Watson is, and this is not me just being a proud mama, but he is uber intelligent. Like, I wish he wasn't as intelligent. That might sound mean, but I just mean he's so intelligent and he's also impatient that he is very hard to occupy, because the amount of people that have said to me, oh, I've got exact thing for you, you need this puzzle thing, and I'm like, no, had it, he figures it out in 2 minutes. And they've told me that their dogs have been occupied for days trying to figure this thing out, and I'm like, he gets it in a couple of minutes and that's him done. So treats in boxes, like yogurt pots, you can use yogurt pots and sellotape up the top, or there's so many things that you can use. So once you start getting into the habit of saving all your boxes, I've now got one big massive drawer and I just put boxes in it. Any parcels that come through the door, I save the boxes, especially if they've got paper in, and you can just screw them up. Just put the treat in and screw the paper up really tight and then put it back in the box, and that's a great way for them as well. If you don't have anything like that, old towels are great. Lay it on the floor, put a few bits of treat and then roll it up, and it just takes them so long to get the treat, you'd be surprised. Or put treats on the floor and just lay a towel flat on it, because they will try and figure out how to get underneath it. And it's not just that it occupies them for 15 minutes, that actually tires them out trying to figure out how to get the treats as well. It tires them out mentally. The other thing that I do and kind of pre-prepare when he's out for walks, I'll be doing this tomorrow, so when he goes off for his walk with the walker at lunchtime, I will get some of these, or I mean, it doesn't have to be these, it can be anything, but it has to be something that's got a strong smell, and this has got a nice strong smell and it's not too rich, it won't upset his tummy. You know, Watson's got a sensitive tummy. And they're also not too calorific, but I will put some of these, I can't do this too soon because you don't want them to dry out, but I will put them around this room or the living room or somewhere, like on top of radiator knobs. I use my studio lights and balance them on them. I put them like in corners on the skirting boards. I'll sometimes put some in little boxes, but I don't sellotape them up, and I hide those so that the smell's still coming out. And I'll have one room prepared so that at any point when he's kind of looking a bit like he needs something, I can come in here and just go find it, and then I can type away on the computer and he will spend his time sniffing around the room trying to find it. And the great thing about that again is it's teaching him how important his nose is, which, me being a paranoid mother about having him stolen or losing him, I want his nose to be on. I want him to really have a switched on nose, because if he ever goes missing, I will be dumping my laundry outside the door and, you know, doing everything that is required to try and get them to come home. And I want him to be able to know how to use his nose to find his way home, you know. So that's another thing that keeps him occupied, but also tires him out. That was the other thing I was going to say. When they're using their nose that much, it tires them out. So that's the find it game. Twisty bowl, I've said I've got a bowl. Again, let me get it. I'm not very prepared, am I? This is the Twisty bowl. It's actually called a Dog Tornado, and it's by Nina Otterson. I've tried many of the Nina Otterson things. Excuse me. And this was one of the things that somebody said to me, oh, you need to get this because, you know, it will take ages then for him to eat his lunch or his dinner. And it doesn't. He had it figured out in minutes. Like I said, he's not that keen on his kibble. He'll eat it when he's hungry, but he's not keen enough to try and even move this to eat it. But this is what it's like. It's just got lots of little pockets. But I thought, like, he wasn't that bothered when I first put it down, so I put some treats in it that he does like, and there was no figuring out for my Watson. He just instantly was like, oh yeah, okay, and he got it all and walked off. But I know other dogs that have struggled with this, that have taken a long time. They can smell it and they take a long time to figure that they need to push that and they need to push that. You know, it might seem simple, but it's taken them a while. I keep it because I don't know why I keep it, honestly, because I don't want to throw it away. It's not something I'd sell. It'll be too heavy to post to somebody. I guess that's why I keep it. And sometimes I kind of crack it out and put some food in it and hope that he will maybe use it, but he doesn't really, to be honest. But I know that it's worked for some people. The bottles game. The bottles game I can't show you because we no longer have it, but let me think. I'll try and remember and see. I'll have to find the video that I've got of Watson where he does this bottle game. If you've been following me and watching all of Watson's videos, you will have seen him doing it. And it's not something you can buy, you have to actually build it. But if you have a high energy dog, I know that you will be like, yes, I'll build it. You kind of will do anything when you have that level of energy in the house. It's very, very simple to make. And actually, before Kev built it, I did use something else and I can't think what it was. But you need a plank of wood at the bottom, 2 bits of wood at the side, and then a pole. And on that pole, you get like empty cola bottles, empty water bottles, any kind of bottles. And you make a hole at the top of the bottle and you slot them onto the pole. And then you put treats inside them, and obviously you've washed these bottles out. And so for the easy ones, you can make some that are easy, that spin round very easily. They just have to, or no, that are harder to spin round. They just have to push it and the treat drops out. There's others where they're more weighted on the bottom, where if they hit it, it spins round and they have to either try and push it and balance it and get it out, or they have to just keep on pushing it round. And certainly it did tire him out the first time I used it, because it took him, I don't know, 10 minutes to figure out. But the amount of people that have told me about this game and said that it will tire them out and it will last them weeks and they'll be occupied for hours. But like I said, unfortunately, Watson is a combination of intelligent and impatient. So, for example, he figured out the small bottles and the easy bottles very quickly. But the end bottle that was weighted, so he'd spin it, he'd be like, well, I know what to do with this, I spin it, and the treat didn't come out. He'd be like, oh, I can't be bothered. He doesn't have the patience, and so I'd have to bring it out the next day and try and encourage him to keep on trying, so it didn't really occupy him in that manner. But again, it depends on your dog, and it was definitely something I could drop a few treats in and it gave me 15 minutes, which sometimes you'd need, you know. I'm afraid pretty much everything I'm talking about involves treats. But if your dog is toy motivated, which mine is not whatsoever, then you will be able to use toys a lot of the times instead of these things. So for example, you could hide toys, because there's a thing called, what do they call it? It's like an entertainment bucket or something that you can leave them. It was more for separation anxiety, and I've used it, but I had to layer it with treats. And so you get a bucket and then you would put a toy at the bottom, then a towel, you could put some treats in it, then put another toy, then put a ball, then layer it, and then put a Kong, and then, you know, so it's like keeping them occupied for ages. You could do that if they were toy motivated. I do it in that way, but not in, I don't actually have a bucket that I use. So the next thing though, you can't really replace with toys, because there are some really good long lasting but healthy treats that I don't think are too controversial. For example, I know that rawhide is controversial. Some people don't want to use rawhide, some people are okay with it. We're sort of not sure at the moment, because there are a couple of small rawhide things he has and we're not sure if they're upsetting his tummy, but then other times he has them and his tummy's okay. So we're not really sure where we stand on that at the moment. But I know that it is difficult for their system to digest it. But the things that I think are the best long-lasting treats are pizzles, which I think you call bully sticks in the USA. They are just a must. However, Watson's gone off them. He doesn't like them. Porky chews, or what we call porky chews, they're just strips of pork. I think they're pork hide, but I don't know whether they are considered rawhide. Excuse my ignorance here. I really don't know an awful lot about dog treats from that point of view, from the rawhide. I need to look into that actually, because I've educated myself on so much since having Watson. But pork, he's gone off those as well. Tripe sticks was something else. They're very, very healthy for them, and I loved giving him tripe sticks, but again, in the last few weeks, he's gone off them. I don't currently have anything I can give him. He won't eat pig's ears, he won't eat boar's ears, he won't eat venison ears. I've tried literally venison tongue, venison heart, everything, and I cannot find a long-lasting snack for him. Please let me know if you've got anything, if you've got any suggestions. I'm telling you these because they used to work for Watson, and I know that there are lots of dogs that do love them. So something like that, have in your arsenal that you can bring out. I've just thought of something. I've thought of something that I know he loves, but that we were trying to avoid because we weren't sure if his tummy was okay with him. And they're called ribbies, New Zealand ribbies. And they're just bones. They're air-dried venison bones. Well, he loves venison, but they're very thin and they're like ribs. And that would keep him occupied, again, not for long, but like for 15 minutes if you just need to do something. If you need to jump in the shower or, you know, like I said, do something at the computer. I can't remember whether I told you, but this first set of things I'm talking about are things for them to do so that you can get on with something. They're things that you can pre-prepare for, or things that you can do, give them, that don't involve you like training them or spending time with them. It's something you can give them. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is a crate. I know that the crates are still controversial. When I first got Watson, I had no intention of using a crate until I read into it and researched into it and found that dogs actually love crates, and it's like a den for them. And when you have a dog, it becomes evident why they would love a crate, because they like going under tables and they like to feel kind of boxed in. And actually, in a bizarre kind of way, I can understand that. In a story I'll maybe tell on my Patreon channel, a bit of a weird story, but anyway, I understand that feeling of safety. So we decided to use a crate for crate training at the beginning. I can't remember the age we stopped shutting the door, like at night. We only really used it at night. We tried to use it in the day for separation. He just absolutely detested it, but I was wanting to get rid of the crate. A couple of months ago I said to Kev, he never goes in it anymore, let's get rid of it. And suddenly he started loving it. And he now goes in it whenever he gets a chance, but I never shut the door. I think a crate has a really good place, and don't think of it as a cage. Don't think of it as something that you're going to put them in there to, you know, you don't have to use it for crate training. You don't have to have a crate and use it to keep them locked in. You take the door off. I want Kev to take the door off of this one because I'm never going to use the door again. Oh God, I don't know why that gave me a fright. It doesn't even have to be a specific crate. Excuse me, I tell you I'm doing everything in this video, aren't I? Drinking my tea, now I'm putting my lip gloss on. It's not gloss, it's just a moisturiser, my lips are dry. You can make a little area, like I've now put a little cushion under this table that I'm sitting at, because he seems to love going under this table, so I put a little cushion underneath here so that he can feel safe. So make him a little den and then train him to go in that den. So I've trained Watson to go in his bed when the door rings. So it starts off, I started off with Kev having to knock on the door because you just wouldn't be able to wait that long when you've got the postman knocking. So he would knock and I'd say to Watson, in your bed, and he'd be desperate for you to open the door. But I wouldn't open the door until he was in the bed. And at first he would get in his bed and then as soon as the door was open, he'd jump up. But now he will get in his bed and wait. And in the same way, you can teach them to go in their crate. So you can at first kind of lead them in and go in your crate and give them a treat. And then eventually I can now say to him, in your crate. And then he goes into his crate and lies down and I give him a little treat. And he knows that it's his place for a start. Nothing bad ever happens in the crate. I don't shut the door on him. I've made it really cosy in there. I'll sometimes put like something of Kev's in there, like a sock or something, because he doesn't chew them up. We're quite lucky in that way. Or a sweatshirt or something like that, because he seems to love the scent of that. You know, like I said, it's really cozy in there. I've got a quilt cover on the top of it so it's nice and closed in. But make them a nice little den area and then train them to go there. So in your crate, and if they're tired, sometimes they're overtired, they will lie down and sleep. So those are all the kind of things that you can do where you can try and leave them. The next few things are things that you will need to do with them, but if you spend, you know, it can be tricky because sometimes you're getting disturbed. I know with me, you know, it'll be, he's come back for a walk, he's only slept for 40 minutes and then he's like wanting to do something, you know, and if he doesn't get my attention in here, he'll go and ring the bell because he rings the bell to go for a wee bit. He'll ring it because he wants to get outside and I'm like, I need to do something to tire him out. I always think, well, if I take 15 minutes to half an hour now, it will pay off because he'll sleep for another hour or two, and so you'll get the time back rather than spending the next 2 hours trying to bat him off, you know. So the first thing I do is scent find it. He absolutely loves that, and that depends on whether your dog is motivated by that. And what that is I get just a muslin cloth and I'll put something like, I normally use the butter, is it called buttery caramel? It's just like essential oil drops, but it's a food one, you know, like you get the food flavourings, it's a caramel drops. I put it on that, I say to him to smell it, and then I go and hide it. I get him to stay in the hall, I go and hide it in the bedroom, and then I say find it. So it is a game of find it, but he has to find that scent, and then he gets a treat afterwards. And I do that, so I'll maybe do it 5 times in one room, 5 times in another room. Like I said, it takes 15 minutes maximum because he finds it very quickly, but his nose is on, and that will tire him out. I would then go and put him in his crate, say in your crate, and that would he would fall asleep again because his mind will have been on trying to find this scent, you know. Training, of course, training was something else. Kev and I, it shows you how little knowledge we had, but we were never going to train our dog to do tricks because we were like, oh, they're not performing monkeys, you know. I don't want my dog to do tricks, it's not about that. But when you find out that actually that increases the bond between you and it's something they love doing and it's something that tires them out, then you rethink it and go, oh, okay, tricks. So I am teaching him to do tricks, and some of the tricks that I'm training him to do have been really helpful. For example, I've taught him chin, which you probably saw in the last video of him. And so I'll do this and say chin, and he rests his chin on my hand. And I used it yesterday at the beach. I was looking, thinking, his eyes are really red. Has he got something in his eye? Because I could just see him from one angle. And so I stopped him and I said chin, and he rested his chin on me. And he knows that he stays there until I give him a treat. And I was able to have a look in his eye and see what was going on in his eye. It wasn't anything. I think the sand just irritates his eyes. And so it was really useful. So some of the tricks you train them to do, like even roly-poly, you see in the last one we taught him roly-poly, that started because we do his teeth when he's sleepy so that he's not so bothered, and then we get him to roly-poly onto the other side to do the other side of his teeth. So they often do have uses, and I'm toying with the idea of doing some tricks training with Watson, but the thing is I've kind of trained him to do all of the tricks, if you know what I mean, and there's not... Trying to think what am I next. I'm doing the bucket game with him, so I don't know whether I'll be able to video it. It depends on the light coming in that day and the angles and things like that. It's quite a difficult thing to film unless you've got somebody there to film it for you, and I do it in the day when Kev's at work, so it's not easy. But training, and there's plenty of videos you can look up for training. What do I would say train him on sit and lie down, roll over. Cover your eyes is a great one. That's very difficult to do, where you get them to cover their eyes, but it's very cute. That's not a useful one, that's just a cute one, and like I said, it's difficult for them. You start off by using a bit of that tape that I was talking about, and you sort of just put it on their nose, and it doesn't hurt them, but it sort of irritates them, makes them do this. And so you start saying, cover your eyes, because that's what they're doing, you know, and you take it from there. What else? I get them to speak and bark. I say woof or speak, which again isn't that useful, except that we were teaching him speak and quiet, so quiet works as well. What else have we got to do? Paw, other paw, and high five. The paws really does help when you want to clean his paws when he comes in, or when you want to look at his paws. What else? I've got him to cuddle me and snuggle me, which is just nice, you know. So he does come and snuggle now because he knows nice things will happen. Leave it. We always do leave it in the house. We do keep up the leave it training, and that's a really good training to do for what's called impulse control, and that tires them out the most. The hardest training for a dog is impulse control, which is like if you put a piece of cheese in front of them on the floor and you don't let them eat it until you say. That's really hard for them, and it really tires them out. Anyway, like I said, there's plenty of training tricks you can teach. Training tricks, that didn't really make sense, did it? You know what I mean. What else have I said? Training. Scents in the garden. If you've got a garden, this is a really random thing to do, and I have found that it tires him out a little bit, but it's just nice to do for him. You can make a garden very exciting for dogs, and if we move and end up with a nice big garden with grass and everything, I can't wait to make it into a doggy garden, if you like. But we've only got like a deck in, and we've got stones. So what I do is I get little bottles of different scents, like that buttery caramel, vanilla. I sometimes use my essential oils, and I go around the garden and I put little bits of oil around, because they love smelling. You know, when a dog goes out, its nose is to the ground, it wants to smell what's going on. And so I'm putting scents out there that mean he's got a sensory experience in the garden, and he's got different things to go, oh, what's that over here? I wonder what this is. It's not as exciting as smelling other dogs' wee or, you know, things outside, the different grassy smells, but it's not far off it, you know, so you can do that. Impulse training I've talked about. Sniff walk, I sometimes take him for what I call a sniff walk, which means that I don't have time to take him to get in the car and drive to the beach, which is half an hour away, and then go for a 1 hour walk, then drive back again for him to just sleep for an hour, because that's 2 hours gone and then you only get an hour. Sometimes I just need to tire him out, and so I take him for a sniff walk, and by that I mean around about here. So I just put my coat on, leave the house and walk with him. We're not going anywhere where he can be off lead, but normally if we're going for a walk, we're either walking to the park where it's a focused walk and he's not allowed to sniff too much, you know. But this one is just to basically let him sniff everything, and that again will tire him out, you know, and I think that's a really good thing to do. And even if you think it might be really boring around about where you are, there's so many smells, because there's generally dogs have weed and been there. And we always laugh with each other and say, when he's smelling like, you know, a bin where a dog has weed by it, that we feel like he's like, oh God, you know, Jeff's got a new girlfriend. Who thought? Oh, I haven't seen him for ages. You know, he's been here. He's still around. That's their conversation, you know. And so just go different ways, like, you know, explore the area around you. It's been really fun to do that with Watson. And that's never normally longer than half an hour, because otherwise I'd call that a normal walk. It's normally like 15, 20 minutes. And again, that has sometimes tired him out enough to go to sleep for another hour, or to certainly be calmer, you know, because he's got, I feel like you're putting things in for him to think about, because all dogs do is think. And so if you put all those scents in the garden, they can then go and they're thinking, what were those scents? You know, I don't know if it works like this. I'm not, you know, a vet or a scientist in the point of animals, from an animal point of view, but that's how I like to think of it, that I take him out for 15 minutes and he can just kind of daydream about all of the things he's smelt and all of the people that he's smelt and the dogs he's smelt and that kind of thing, you know. Fetch and throw in a ball, I think, is a great idea to tire a dog out. So again, if there's a space near you and they love a ball, even if you used a training lead, if you were worried, you know, if it was near a road and you didn't want to let them off lead, use a training lead, get a ball and throw the ball for them, and then just get them to fetch it to you. And they're going to be running backwards and forwards and it tires them out, you know. There's only one thing left on my list, and it's something that I haven't done yet, and it's called the bucket game. If you look up the bucket game, you'll find videos on it, and I will try and link them for you, because I don't know, like I said, will I link them for you? Yeah, I'll link them for you. I'll link the one I've found that seems to be okay, but there's none that I can see where they are explaining the game. And so I might well video this and show you me doing it for the first time, because I've never done it with Watson. All the videos I've seen seem to, I don't know, they're different and they're not really fully explaining it, but I've read a few websites about what it is. It was somebody at the Doodle Meet on Sunday that told me about it, and they said, oh, have you done the bucket game? And they learned it at their obedience class. And what it is it's a way to, they call it a conversation with your dog, and it means that they can choose when they start, they can choose when they stop, they can choose when, what's the other thing? If they're uncomfortable with something, they don't have to do it. And the idea is you can either use it just with the bucket, or you can use it to introduce something that they've been struggling with. So you could use it, for example, if they didn't like ears being touched. This is one of the videos I saw. She didn't like her ears being cleaned out, so she used the bucket game to introduce this ear paste. We could have used it to introduce the electric toothbrush to Watson, but actually I used cheese and I was putting the cheese there, and it was kind of the bucket game I was doing, but without the bucket. So what you do, you get a bucket or a cup or a large container that's not transparent, that you can't see through, and the idea is you put it in front of them, and you train them that when they look at that bucket, you click them and you treat them. And so, like I said, I've never done this with Watson, and I know his first instinct will be to try and get into the bowl, because I sometimes have a bowl with treats in when I'm training him, and he will try to, if he can't get it on the first or second time when I'm telling him to do, he'll just try and go behind me and get his nose into the treats. He's kind of like, I'm bored, I can't get it, give me a treat. So the first thing I'll need to train him to do is that he's not to look at me, he's to look at the bucket, but he's not to go near the bucket, he's not to put his hands or his nose in the bucket, he's just to sit and look at the bucket. As soon as he does that, which will, the first time I do it with him, I guarantee he'll be sleeping for at least an hour afterwards, I will click him and treat him. And then once he's got the hang of the fact that, okay, I look at the bucket, I don't go near it, I don't touch it, I don't have to do anything else. He can be sitting, standing or lying down, whatever he wants. That's the point. This is a conversation where they can do whatever they want within reason. I will get a treat. You then leave a little bit more time so that it ends up a game of they will sit and stare at the bucket, and you're teaching them impulse control until you click and give them a treat, because they understand that all they have to do is look at the bucket. So it's very, very simple, but very, very efficient. I actually don't know if I'll have the patience to wait long enough before giving him a treat. I feel bad for him, you know, sitting just staring. But anyway, what was I going to say then? My lights just flashed, it really put me off. Oh, okay, so the way that you then use that for, once you've trained them that, you can use that for introducing something else. And let's say it's that ear thing, you could basically, what the woman did was she got out the tube of ear paste or whatever it is she uses, and you could see the dog instantly get up and go to walk away. And at that point, if the dog wants to walk away, that's absolutely fine. It's not about pushing anything on them. It's about saying, well, here's the ear paste. If you're okay with this just being out and you would like to sit and stare at that bucket, you will get a treat. But if you don't, because you don't like this, that's fine. And so that's where they start and stop the conversation. But actually, so it stood up and then it was like, huh, okay, she doesn't seem to be doing anything with it. Got a bit of fluff in front of me. I'll sit down and look at the bucket again because I really want another treat. And then she put a little bit on her finger and she kind of held it up, and he was like, okay, I'm okay with that. And it went on like that, and it might take longer than you would see on video, but that would work definitely, because you're allowing them to get used to something in their own time, and they've got a choice. It's like, well, I can do that thing and I'll get a treat. It's not so bad. And I think that's pretty much how we've taught Watson to have his teeth cleaned by an electric toothbrush, and he will come out with a toothbrush and he lies down and opens his mouth. I mean, he's that good. He will let us clean his teeth because he knows that he gets a duck fillet at the end of it, you know. And although we didn't use the bucket method, it was the same kind of thing. It was like, it's up to you, we're not going to force it on you, but look, here's the duck fillet, cleaning your teeth, oh, here you go, here's the duck fillet, you know. So I'm really looking forward to trying it on Watson. And yeah, like I said, I might well film it. What I might do is after this I might film, no, I was going to say I might film the introduction explaining what it is, but I've kind of just explained it, so I might steal this bit and put this as the introduction to my bucket game video, if that makes sense. Anyway, I hope that was all useful to you. I hope that somebody got something from that. Let me know, please let me know if you have any ideas that I have not mentioned there. Some people have asked me about getting a treadmill for him. I don't have the room for a treadmill in the house because I had a treadmill of my own actually, and I had to get rid of it for the studio lighting in here. We don't have the money to buy a treadmill for a dog, they're very expensive, and I honestly would prefer to do something else with them than a treadmill at this point. Don't get me wrong, if money and space was no option, I would get one and I'd try it out, but I prefer to try these things while I have the opportunity. But if you've got any other ideas, any other games and things, let me know. I think I've tried every Nina Otterson game, and it's just, some of them I didn't like because they had pieces that he could choke on, and others he just gets them too quickly, and they're a lot of money for something that doesn't really challenge him, you know. So that is everything. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know how you get on if you try any of these, and I will speak to you soon.